we're rolling. We're rolling. All right, we got Sommer Pridgen producing today over here off camera, so that's what I'll be looking at. Well, welcome TJ to the release room.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
It's a beautiful plush studio.
This studio is amazing,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge.
It is.
I got lost
as we wedge ourselves in. TJ asks, "Can I move the cables? These cables under my feet?" I'm like, you do, and you die. So, all right. So we've known each other a little while now.
A couple of weeks or more.
Couple of
years, yeah.
So I'm thinking about when we met way back when. I had just started managing Zero Chance.
Right.
Which is...
Where did we meet? We
met outside of Vision Studios.
That's what I was going to say. I thought maybe that was the first time we officially met.
Right outside of Vision Studios. Eric Bolito. He's a singer.
I was trying to remember
Chance.
Eric's last name.
Yeah.
Eric Bolito, Sean McPherson.
Yep. Eric and Sean and oh God, the drummer. I love the guy. What? Chase. Thank you, producer.
Chase
Sommer.
was the drummer?
Chase was the drummer.
Huh.
Yeah.
Completely forgot about that.
So he was the drummer. He had never played drums before and just bought a kit and joined the band and was awesome.
Huh.
It was crazy. But we met, you were handing out your demo. The very first demo
outside
that you
of the
did.
rehearsal studio.
Outside the rehearsal studio. I think you were just waiting for people to come out. Hey, want my demo? It's on compact disc.
Can we open for you? Can we get a gig?
Can we get a gig? Right. So it was, so we met and I got your CD. Who was that? Who did that first CD, the demo?
The demo, my brother, Jeremiah.
Okay, so Jeremiah did that.
Jeremiah did that.
And Jeremiah was...
he was
with Manchester at the time?
No, this was before then. He had gone to Full Sail, studied recording arts before Full Sail started just churning people through.
Right.
And came out of there and got a job with Dan Hannon. So he was engineering with Dan Hannon in the studio, and I came up to Atlanta 2004, I guess. And so it was like June of 2004 when I moved up to Atlanta.
Right.
And basically, had no plan other than to try to come and make a music career.
Does anybody have a plan other than that?
No. So I was just hanging out in the studio with him and Dan, and then eventually he started kind of doing some side projects and split off and was producing stuff on his own before he joined Manchester.
Okay.
So he recorded that demo for us and did 3 songs.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, Jeremiah was the drummer for Manchester Orchestra up until a couple years ago. A few years ago?
I think it's been more than a few now. I don't know how long ago
They
it
go
was.
by so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. All right. So we met, and then we'd see you around the studio hall and this and that, and then we got to know each other. Then you did the incredible CD with Dan.
So we did it. We did that demo with Jeremiah, and then we did an EP with Dan Hannon, and it was a 6-song EP, 5 or 6. I think it was 6 songs.
Yeah, 6-song EP, and it has a song on it that I think 4, maybe 5 people have said they wish they wrote just to me, which is 21.
Yeah,
which is a fantastic, amazing song. Which would actually 21 in Minnesota.
Yeah,
would cause quite a rift between us, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
As we go through this process.
Yeah.
So do that CD, and then send that CD when I got that, which I got that at one of your shows. Fantastic. Of course, Dan. I mean, if you're doing it with Dan, it's going to be great. So how did you start Beggars Guild? How did it come to be?
let me think about that for just a second. And can I get just a tad less in here? Sorry. Sweet. Okay, so the Beggars Guild, when I came to Atlanta, I wasn't playing for probably the first year or so, I think. So I came to Atlanta right before I had moved to Atlanta. All right, long story. My stories are never short. I had always, like, from the time I was 4, I'd wanted to be a guitar player, but didn't really do it until started learning high school, probably senior year. Went to college, studied music as a minor, but wasn't in bands, didn't know what that was. I wasn't around other people who were in bands. So I had no, like, it was like might as well have wanted to be an astronaut. Like I had no frame of reference of, oh, I know these guys who are astronauts. Here's how you do it. That's how like being in a band was to me. I wanted to do it, but had no frame of reference how to do it. So I wasn't playing gigs. After college, ended up back home and working in youth ministry for a church. Did that for about 4 years, where I was playing some music, and then got out of that. And somebody asked me to play bass in a cover band, and so I started playing
the old bass in the cover band.
The old
routine.
Bass in the cover band. Right.
Everybody needs a bass in the cover band.
So I did that for a bit, and that was kind of my first experience of like gigging out, and it was like, this is pretty cool. I like this.
So like most bass players, you like practiced a couple days and then you were gigging.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was like, I own a bass.
I own a bass.
And I got asked to be in 3 bands.
Yeah.
And so I started playing with some guys and really enjoyed it and started writing some songs. And I left the job that I was at. I was working at a church, left that and kind of didn't know what I was going to do, and got invited to go up to Rochester, New York, where one of my best friends from college he was from there. So I would take a road trip up there like every year, all through college and afterward. It was kind of like an annual thing. We'd go up and see my buddy Jason up there. So he invited me to come up there. He and his dad were kind of running a small church plant. And so I went up there and was playing music and working at a music store. And the music store in the basement had a little project studio set up. So I had Thursdays off, and every Wednesday after work, we'd shut down the music store, and I had a key. And so I'd go down and spend all night just playing on the computer, like figuring out how to record. And so I started writing some songs. One of those songs ended up being Some Old Horses that ended up on that first EP. And
got another good one. That whole EP is good.
Thank you. So that was kind of like the start of it, of me writing songs and thinking, okay, this is something that I've always wanted to do. I either need to do it now or, not.
Right.
So, and I was actually, kind of the circumstances of me leaving the job, I was in youth ministry, working with high school and middle school kids, and was in the Episcopal church, and had actually was going to go to seminary and go into ordination, and in the Episcopal church would have become a priest, and I wanted to get into church planting, I thought at that time. And in order to do that, I needed to be ordained. So I kind of went that route and there's a whole process to get basically like approved in the church for that. And you have a whole committee, and they say, yeah, we believe that you're called to this and to do that. Went through all that, and then basically bailed at the last minute and got waitlisted from the church that I wanted to go to. And so I didn't know what to do, but I really had no plan, like how I was going to pay for it. Like it was probably a bad idea at the time anyway. So I bailed, went to Rochester, came back, went through like 4 months of winter and said, why am I up here in the middle of winter when I still have a place in Hilton Head to live? So I went back and started doing sound gigs, started, working in clubs, playing in cover bands, and did that for a few months, and then came to Atlanta and said, all right, I need to either make a run at this and try to pursue this as a career as a songwriter and become an artist, or fail at it, get it out of my system, and then at least I did it. So came to Atlanta.
Right. So who was your first, what was your hook? Who was the first person you met that sort of pulled you into it, or how did you get in and get the band started?
To get the band started. Okay, so when I came up here, I was hanging out with Dan Hannon. I was in the studio. John Chalden, who was the drummer in the Beggars Guild when we started it, he was living in an apartment that was on the other half of the studio, basically. So the studio and this other apartment were in the basement of Mike Seamus's house in Duluth at the time. And so I met John there, and, he was playing sessions, nice guy. And at some point I had recorded a demo of 21 and a song called You Were There that was on the EP as well. And both of those songs, like I recorded a demo one afternoon just in my loft apartment, and it turned out pretty good. You know, I mean, listening back to them, they were really rough, really amateur, but I knew there was something in 21.
Yeah.
And so I played those for John, and I was trying to book a gig, and I was trying to I wanted to ask him if he would play this gig with me, but I was too, you know, like I thought there's no way this guy's gonna play with me.
So I mean, so John, his background, Sheryl Crow,
he played with Sheryl Crow. He's played with Chuck Berry. He's played with Sylvain.
Right.
He's you know, played in lots of successful, you know, kind of corporate bands over the years, and session. You know, he did a ton of session work for a lot of different people.
Right.
Still plays with a ton of people. Just a fantastic drummer. And so I was trying to book this gig, and I think I had messaged him and said, hey, you know, would you be interested in playing the show with me? And he didn't get back with me, and I had sent him the demo, and he didn't get back with me. And so I thought, for sure, like, I'm small fit. Like, there's no way this guy would stoop to play with me.
Right.
And he finally got back to me, and he was like, man, I've been looking for some kind of original project, and like, this is the kind of thing that I've been looking for, and I'd really like to, you know, join up and be a part of it. And so John was the first. And,
nice.
And, you know, just way out of my league as a musician and as a person. But so, you know, I started working with John, and we started getting together and kind of like hashing out arrangements of the songs that I had already started writing. And then I met Greg Shapiro.
So you kind of failed your way down to Greg.
Right.
So it was like John high, John here, and then Greg.
Right.
You had to even it out. No, Greg's awesome. See, I mean, as far as Atlanta goes, you kind of walk into Atlanta and you cherry pick like two of the best people you could start a band with. Well, how do you do that? How does anyone come in and end up with those two? That's awesome.
Luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, luck or divine providence, you know, I think some of all of that.
Right.
But yeah, so I met Greg because at the time I was doing sound at the 10 High. And so this was when Nicole was doing like the songwriter series during the weeks. We had original bands there. And so I think Greg was playing with, he was definitely playing with Blankety Blank.
Yep.
So I'd done sound for Blankety Blank a few times. And I think he might have played with Sonya Lee at that point, or it might have been right before then. But he had done a few gigs. And so...
Yes, that'd be when Zani was just starting
She
out.
was just
getting in the game.
Because she was in Butterfly Stitch.
Right.
And she was just starting to break out kind of on her own. Cale Davis was playing there a lot. John Hopkins was playing there. Greg Lee, you know, Sunsets East. Like, that was that kind of era.
Yeah.
And so I met Greg, and Greg's always hustling and talking at gigs. And so he was talking to me, and I was telling him, yeah, I've kind of got this thing I'm kind of working on. And so he was like, oh, man, you know, what do you got going? And so I told him, well, I got this guy, John Chalden. He was like, oh, yeah, I'd be interested in playing. And he just wanted to play with John Chalden.
Right.
Because he'd heard about John Chalden, that he was this great drummer. And you know, Greg's always looking for a gig. So he met with me and John, and the three of us got together and started working out tunes. And we did one gig as a trio, and I was playing mostly acoustic then.
Yeah.
And I think I played electric on like one tune maybe. But, you know, I thought we were going to be, you know, an acoustic-y kind of folky rock kind of thing. And so we did one gig as a trio, which I don't know how we did that because I'm not a trio guitar player. And he had invited Will McNeil.
So who brought in Will?
Greg did. Because Will was in Blankety Blank.
Right. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So Greg the whole time was like, yeah, I got the guy. It's like, I got the guy. You know, he's going to come to the gig.
Greg.
So Will came to the gig, and afterward, you know, I was talking with him, and I was like, is this even something you're interested in? He was like, yeah, I'm totally into it. So Will was in.
So here's why Will works. This is why Will worked for the Beggars Guild. Will, if he had his druthers and he had his way, he could wave his magic wand, he would be an AC/DC.
Yeah.
Like, he would be in a heavy metal hard band.
Right.
Right. But he's also got the chops for an Americana. I mean, it's such a good musician all around.
He's just a phenomenal player.
Incredible keyboard player, right? Incredible
keys, drums, vocals, guitar.
Yeah.
Like he could he could absolutely just burn down a guitar, and then he'd go over on piano and do the same thing, and he could sit on the drum set and do that too. I mean, just incredibly talented.
So he put this hard, sort of a hard rock influence on an Americana type of sound, which became really a very unique Beggars Guild sound. And fast forwarding a little bit, it was the confusion when we had later on in the game, we were mixing the record down. And Brett Hartley was mixing the record, and he kept coming to us with this Americana mix, and we said, no, think AC/DC.
Right.
Think AC/DC Americana. He's like, what have I signed up for? But that's what it was.
Because at that point, Brett was in the guitar position.
Yeah, at that point. So we'll get back to that point. But so I think that moment really is poignant because that was Will. I mean, that was Will's influence in the band was bringing that sort of high energy guitar aspect to it.
Yeah, I would agree. And it was, and I was my influences. I mean, I love AC/DC. I love the stuff Will was doing.
Yeah.
But that wasn't immediately where I thought we were going necessarily. You know, I mean, my biggest influence, obviously, well, maybe not obvious to everybody else, but to me, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, my biggest influence. But I was also really influenced by Counting Crows and Pete Yorn.
Yeah, you don't whine enough, though.
Well, that's good.
The Counting Crows thing.
That's good.
Not enough whining for that one. But no, I get you. Songwriting-wise, what an incredible writer and incredible songs that band comes out with, Counting Crows.
Yeah. And arrangements and kind of feels and vibes. Like Counting Crows, very different writer, though, than, like, say, Tom Petty. Well, no, they're kind of actually similar, but I feel like the way I write is probably a little bit more maybe literal and storyline. And, for good or for bad, I don't know. But, Counting Crows, like Adam Duritz definitely is, he's much more like painting images with words.
Right.
Like painting like vignettes almost. And Tom Petty does the same thing where, like, within a song, within a verse, you might have 2 or 3 different kind of like picture scenes that you're not quite sure what the story is, but it portrays a feeling. And Adam Duritz is kind of the same way, I think.
I think if you can take that feeling and immediately apply it to something meaningful in your life or some meaningful experience you're having or have had,
and then it connects.
It connects. As a writer, you've left enough room as opposed to beating you down the head. I talk about, I talk to people about songwriting. I bring up a lyric of yours all the time.
Which one?
So I always say, there's 2 ways you can write the exact same thought. You can write, I see this girl, man, she's so fine, walking down the street, I can't stop looking at her, love that girl, right? And that is a lot of how a lot of my songs would start, is just a very literal, okay, boom, here's what I'm trying to get across. Now, how do you paint it?
Yeah.
How do I throw that on a canvas? And so the way you said that was, she's the sun on my windshield, hides the road from my sight.
Yeah, I love that line. I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, you think about that line, and it's just so much. It says so much.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, that is songwriting, whereas the other is sort of throwing some words down. You get the same visual, really.
Yeah.
But it's so much more majestic to actually write it down and come up with that. And those are the type things, like when I listen to your songs, I go, okay, God, where can I come up with that? Now, I want to pause here real quick.
All right.
So I put a record out. Greg Lee and we put a record out, Bright Lights and Love, not too long ago. And so I have a song on there called Walk, Don't Run.
Yep.
That I wrote for Sommer. And very proud of it when I wrote it.
Yeah.
And had this big bridge. It's got this big, huge bridge. And I struggled with it, but I was pretty proud of the bridge. I was happy with it. And so you were over at my apartment. I played the song for you. And I'm getting into it, And I get to the big bridge, the big bang, bang, bang. Here it comes, bridge, here it comes. And when you get the chance take off your shoes and leave footprints in the snow. Plant your dreams and take the time to. And you go, whoa, 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 whoa. you stop me from playing. You go, whoa, whoa. That's just terrible. You're like, no, that's just awful. That's terrible. You need to go back and rewrite that.
I don't remember this at all, but that's something I would say.
That's just terrible. I couldn't even finish it. And I thought, for days, I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
What do I do with that? So did we rewrite it together, or we wrote it together kind of, didn't we? All right. So Sommer and I rewrote it together. And so it went from that to, and when you get the chance, call TJ an asshole.
Which is a much better lyric.
Which is a much better lyric,
it's a much
right?
More truthful lyric.
So when we got to it, it turned into, and when you get the chance, take a chance, laugh and sing and dance, dream your dream, don't give up, don't let go.
Which is better.
It's so much better.
Yeah.
Right, but like I would have gone with leaving footprints in the snow. Terrible, horrible. Like no one has ever thought that was pleasant.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, it was good. It came across, but I think you were so appalled as a songwriter. You were just like, listen, no. Listen, as a person who is in this craft, no.
Well, you know who did that for me a lot?
Who?
Was Chalden.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I can see
John
that.
was like, no, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm no, here's how it goes. No, you're not hearing it. Let me play it for you again. He's like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's good. So no, but you need somebody to be like kind of upfront with it. But It was. Now I go back and I think about it and I think, oh my God, that was really awful. It really is it's a lazy, terrible lyric. And so we ended up, I remember singing it. I would almost laugh sometimes trying to cut the vocals in the studio with Greg and be like, oh man,
yeah,
this is funny. So
well, I'm sorry, I don't even remember that. But
it's good.
That sounds like something I would say, being oblivious to how much of a jerk I'm being.
No, but you did. You said it. You did. It happened.
I believe it.
All right, so you get in and you got sort of the core of the band together.
Yes.
I have not seen you guys play yet.
Oh, okay.
At this time, I think the first time I saw you play was at 10 High.
Okay.
I think it was at 10 High, late in the game. Well, you had finished the record with Dan Hannon. So you go in, you go with Dan, you guys do that record. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, incredible. Again, amazing record. And then I hear you guys live, and it's like watching a band that should be on the stage at the Fox Theater, right? This huge band that should be on the stage, killing it in this little club, and it was just
3 people.
Yeah, it was like no, it was Will. I think Will was in it.
No, I mean in the crowd.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, not counting me. I was. Yeah, it was. No, there was a few people there, but man, the city's a hard city.
It's a hard city
to get people out, especially if all of your friends are musicians.
Right.
That's a loser right there.
Right. Yeah.
Right at the top.
We could get people out on a Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It was hard to get.
They're all playing. What do you mean you're playing?
Right.
I have a gig. Come on.
Right. I couldn't even get my band out to a gig. They were all playing.
Yeah, exactly. I hear you. So, so I was blown away. All right, so you guys, now you're working on the next record. Chris Unk starts as the producer for the next record.
Okay. So we'd already started that when you came in?
You guys, you had finished it. You had stalled out in the middle.
Gotcha.
So you guys, you went in the studio with Chris Unk.
Right.
And you guys wrote a bunch of songs together.
Right.
And we're dead in the middle of recording it, and it fell apart.
Yeah, we ran out of money and we kind of stalled out.
So you ran out of money.
We kept starting another song before finishing the last one.
Yeah.
So we had like half of a record halfway done.
And then Zach Brown comes in and starts his label, signed Sonia Lee.
Right. And
that basically took Greg from the band.
Took Greg.
So
we had opened for Zach at Variety.
Variety. So that's it. I think the second time I saw you when we played that show with Zach.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the point with Zach where you realize, like, you go see Zach and it's incredible. You sit down and talk with Zach, what a great guy. Still the same great guy.
Yeah.
But that Variety Playhouse show was like, uh-oh, this is a big star. Like
Right.
this band is about to blow. You got all the incredible musicians. Clay Cook was not in the band at that time.
No, because Clay. So, and you probably know better than I do, but I think the night that we played, that we opened for
Marshall Tucker Band.
Well, I was going to say the night we opened for Zach Brown at Variety.
Yeah.
I think he had just signed a Live Nation deal.
Was it Creative Arts and Live Nation?
I don't know the details.
Yeah,
and
it's one of those.
I could be wrong, but I think I thought it was Live Nation where he had just signed a deal, and Live Nation had never signed an artist before. I think
Without a record deal.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was something groundbreaking, and it was clear, like, okay, Zach's about to take off.
Yeah.
And so later we had opened for Marshall Tucker Band at Center Stage, and Clay Cook was in Marshall Tucker Band.
Yep.
And Zach was there that night, checking out Clay Cook. I mean, we already knew Clay, obviously.
Yeah.
But he was there to see Clay.
I don't think
play.
he did know Clay.
Really?
No, I don't think he did know him.
Huh. That's
I know
surprising.
John had played with him. Yeah, we're probably getting this. This is your.
I'm getting this all wrong. Yeah,
This is
I
your
don't know.
8-hand account of, of what happened.
Right.
I was like, we were in the room, so we know all of this.
Right,
Because
exactly,
we're the
right.
experts, right?
But I remember Zach was there that night.
Yep.
And Clay wasn't in Zach Brown Band,
Right.
but he was right after that.
No, right after that
Right.
show, yeah. So, sidetrack Clay Cook story.
Yeah.
Such a great story. Right. So he writes the first big hit for John Mayer. They were in a band together.
Right.
I'll give you my a couple of them. I'll give you my high-end synopsis. Then they build this band up, and record company signs John and not Clay. Mm-hmm. And John comes a big star.
Right.
John's on the Grammys, and Clay's at home, not in a band at that moment, I think. And John's singing the song Clay wrote, and Clay's not there, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's got to be a lot of mixed feelings because, man, here comes that mailbox money.
Oh, yeah.
But, you're thinking, I mean, there was my chance.
Right.
So the most beautiful thing Zach does, Clay joins the band, Zach's record wins a Grammy. Two things happen. One, Zach plays the Grammys, and Clay Cook is the first voice you hear. He sings America the Beautiful. So the Grammys open that show with Clay singing.
Yeah.
And the second thing is Clay wasn't on the first record, so he could not go up and accept the award.
Interesting. Okay.
So he had to sit in the crowd. So they had sticks with Clay Cook's face on it, and they all held up Clay Cook's face. Do you remember that, Sommer? So they held up Clay Cook's face when they went and accepted the award.
That's cool.
But it's just so cool when you see these musicians that get all these big breaks, and
Right.
you wonder how lucky they are.
Right.
And then if you know them, like I know Clay and all that, what great guys they are.
Right.
Of course they get chances, and of course,
Right.
the John Mayer experience where he misses out, and
Right.
that's not his only
I thought it was really cool when at one point John was opening up for Zach Brown on one of the tours or one of the festivals or something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember John Mayer was opening up for Zach Brown. I thought that's cool.
Yeah, right.
Like, because Clay was with Zach Brown at that point. When I first, right before I moved to Atlanta, and John Mayer was just starting to blow up, a buddy of mine had given me a burned CD with a bunch of different John Mayer, like live and recorded stuff.
Right.
And I was like, what is this crap? And I put it in and listened to it, and I was like, crap, this is fantastic. Like, this is so good. And I don't want to like it, but it's fantastic. And I'm a big John Mayer fan. Like, that dude's super talented, amazing writer, amazing player, singer. But anyway, get that disclosure out. So when I first moved to Atlanta, the first kind of real job I had in town was at Guitar Center. And this was when Guitar Center Atlanta was like a destination store. Like,
Yeah.
we had guys that had been there 20 years. We had like some serious
Come over from
vintage-
Rhythm City.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Richard Gibson came over from Rhythm City, a bunch of other guys. We had some serious vintage gear, and we were buying and selling a lot of like serious, legit vintage gear. This was a completely different place than it is now. Now it's kind of like a Best Buy or something.
Yeah.
But Clay used to come in and, he'd horse trade and buy and sell some stuff. And, he'd come in and the other guitar guys were like, who that's Clay Cook. He was in that band with John Mayer. And Clay, he was already, he'd come in and buy, he bought this vintage Fender 12 string that we had. It was a really cool guitar that
Right.
I loved, and I think he bought an old D28. You know, and he'd trade in some stuff, leave stuff, and so that was kind of my first exposure to Clay. And then I kind of run into him a little bit around town. He played with, I think the first time I saw him play, he played with Megan Coffey.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember Megan
Oh, yeah.
Coffey. So I played bass in Megan's band for a minute, and she did this opening slot at Eddie's Attic for a Christmas special that Edwin McCain was doing.
Oh, really?
So Edwin McCain did this Christmas special, and Clay was playing guitar with Edwin, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be mixing up things, but I think Clay was playing with Edwin that night, and he was playing like a No-Caster Telly into a 50s tweed deluxe, and it just sounded fantastic. And so Edwin loved Megan and her set, and his manager Melissa basically like signed on with me. She was like, "All right, I'm going to manage you."
Another great Atlanta record, Megan Coffey's record. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So good.
So then I was no longer playing with Megan, because immediately they were talking about sending her to Europe and touring and stuff. And at that time I was like starting to try to put together the Beggars Guild. And so, I realized, okay, I love playing with you, and it was fantastic, but I knew that I needed to like try to get the Beggars Guild going.
Yeah.
And I had a couple other bands in town ask me, to come try out on bass, and I turned them down because I knew, all right, this is something that I'm trying to do.
Right.
So, so then later, Clay ended up sitting in on that. I was doing some acoustic shows at Smith's. Do you remember years later when the rest of the band was on tour with
Sonia,
and I didn't have a band anymore?
Yeah.
So I was doing some acoustic shows.
So to tighten that up, Zach gets a record label and does something that's really unheard of.
Yeah.
He signs all Atlanta bands.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the Atlanta guy that then goes and leaves Atlanta and goes everywhere else looking for talent.
Right.
He actually pulled Homegrown Blackberry Smoke. Was did their first record on his label.
I did sound for them at 10 High years ago.
And you still can hear?
Yeah, it was loud.
I went to see them at Star Bar. Kale was like, "Wait till you hear this band." I hadn't heard him before. I went to school with Charlie Star, so I've known Charlie his whole life.
Is he from here? I didn't realize that. Okay.
He it's like it was so loud.
Benji Shanks is playing with them a bunch.
Yeah.
Now I was talking to Benji yesterday.
Benji and did a big music score with Chuck Leavell.
Chuck Leavell. Yeah, I was talking to him about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Benji's playing with Christian Bush.
Yeah. Yep. Benji, Aberley.
Mm-hmm.
Kent. Kent's on
playing drums.
Playing with drums with him. And then Chuck Leavell. Yeah. Like, I grew up with my dad, watching my dad and Chuck Leavell play together.
That's awesome.
So it's like, man, again, Chuck Leavell, another great guy.
Right.
Like, he'll be around and as much as he wants to be.
I've never met him.
God, such a good guy. Very, very normal, very talented. Tree farming, musical director for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Doing musical scores.
Gigs.
Yeah, with Benji Shanks.
Right.
Was I think the driving force behind the Black Crowes' first record.
Really?
That was all Chuck. All the piano on that was Chuck.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And Benji, I think guitar teched for Black Crowes. He was out on the road with them.
Was it? Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the first time that I met him, was at Guitar Center when I was working there, and we were sitting in the vintage room that was all the the sick vintage guitars.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting and just I was supposed to be working, but I just sat down and was just talking with Benji, and we were talking about stuff. And Chris Unk had told me, he was like, that guy Benji, like, he's out with like Black Crowes.
Yeah.
And
he's a big deal.
He's a big deal.
Benji.
Yeah. Benji's a big deal.
Benji, Last Waltz Ensemble that plays with them a lot.
And he's played with he sat in with a bunch of guys, Warren Haynes, and I think Allman, maybe not Allman.
Have I told you
know
my
he's played
my Black Crowes
guitar.
experience?
No.
Well, I mean, I knew them as Mr. Crow's Garden in high school.
Okay.
And
With was Jeff Sullivan
I
playing
think
drums with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but now I was playing drums with Urban Shake Dancers here and there. And
You were playing drums?
Yeah.
I didn't know you played drums.
Yeah, I don't now. I used to play. So I was playing drums with them. There was a show at Communion Club, and I got up and I was playing a bunch of songs. And I had this girlfriend named Liza who madly in love with. Liza was there, and I'm like, man, I'm on stage with the Urban Shake Dancers and locking this deal down with Liza, closing this deal, and in comes the Black Rose, and Chris Robinson gets on stage, and I'm playing drums. Chris is singing, Shake Dancers are rolling, and Rich is leaving with Liza. I'm playing drums, watching Rich leave with my girlfriend, and it was very humbling. So I haven't played drums since. That was it for me. No, yeah. So I think back and I'll see Rich, and I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it.
That's funny.
I'd rather not discuss it. Yeah, that was a long time ago. So
yeah,
yeah. I think he's married with kids now, so it's a whole different world these days. But yeah, so that was my.
How funny.
That was my non-rock star moment.
Right. That's funny.
Good stuff. So. Okay, so record stalled, band's gone.
Yeah, so record stalled. We stalled out. We were kind of beg, borrow, and steal, trying to get the record done, and so I guess at that point was when you came in.
So here's where we were, right? So here's how the perfect storm has happened. I managed Zero Chance and put all my money in their first record. Eric Frampton and I produced it, pulled it in. I think it's a great record. We did this music festival. We got a little bit of hype and did a music festival with Ashley Simpson.
Right.
And then I talked to Ashley Simpson folks about going on the road with her. And it was going to be Zero Chance, Ashley Simpson, the Veronicas. And I put just a ton of money into this band. And Ashley Simpson does her dance on stage. And basically, everything's ruined, and we knew it. We watched it, and we saw it happening, and we were like...
Because you guys, they were going to be on the tour, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened? Was she lip-syncing, or people accused her of lip-syncing?
No, she was straight up lip-syncing.
Okay.
And what happened is the drummer kicks off the tracks for the songs.
Right.
And he kicked off the first song again. Kicked off the wrong song, and she's singing, and then you hear her singing, and you see her standing there going...
Oh, yeah.
And then she looks around and does this little... jig and runs off the stage, and that basically was it for her.
Do you think that would hurt an artist today?
No, I don't think it would hurt him at all.
Like everybody would expect it.
Yeah.
Like I don't think anybody would be surprised. They'd
No.
be like, oh yeah, the track's messed up.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like it then.
Right.
Like remember Milli Vanilli when that came out?
Yeah.
Like that was heartbreaking.
Right.
Like it was, who does that? Like they lost their Grammy, they lost their career.
Right. Poor guys.
They did do a record where they tried to sing.
How was it?
Yeah, no. Bring back the lip syncing. It was bring back the lip syncing. But I mean, they didn't live much. I mean, one guy died.
No, that was done. Yeah.
Yeah, not too soon. A couple years after that,
Yeah,
and the other guy.
it's tragic.
I don't know. Yeah, they lost their great hair. Remember that, the chest bump?
Right.
Like I see these football players do the chest bump. Yeah, I think, dude, Milli Vanilli did that. That's their move.
They did do that. I forgot about that.
So remember that, the shirtless chest bump.
Did football players not do that before Milli?
No, nobody did it. It wasn't a thing, and now they're Milli Vanilli and all over the place like they invented it. No, I see that, and I think blame it on the rain, boys. That's what you're doing. Okay,
Right.
so basically the point is I was out of money.
Right, which was a perfect time to
It's a
sign
perfect
a new
time.
band.
So,
Right.
I had just come off my stint as Sonia Lee's manager.
Okay.
You know that story?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, was it a
Maybe
day?
Recap it real quick because I forgot about that.
Oh, I hustled her and just was like, all in, and I wanted to manage her. And
was this before she had signed with Zach?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she had just done that really good record with John Hopkins, the
Right,
acoustic
okay.
one. It was post, Butterfly Stitch. She had signed the deal with John Hopkins, or did that record with John Hopkins, and now that record had come out, and now she was trying to figure out what to do next.
Right.
And in comes me, and I hustle her up, and we meet, and I go see her play, and we develop a rapport, and I bring in the contract. She signs it. I sign it. She's going to make copies. And literally maybe 4 hours later, I see her in the copy store, and she gives me the cold shoulder. Like I walk in after our meeting. She's on the phone. I think she's on with Kristen Hall.
Kristen Hall?
Kristen Hall. She's on the phone with Kristen Hall, and later that night.
Kristen Hall was in Sugarland.
Was in Sugarland, and she's telling her, "Hey, I've signed a deal." And I think Kristen Hall's saying, "Whoa, no, you're not. No, don't do this." Kristen Hall was right. I didn't know it at the time. So she called me the next day and said, "Hey, I think I've made a terrible mistake," and I said, "Go ahead and tear the contract up." But I was working a deal with Rusty.
Rusty Cobb?
With Rusty Cobb to do a points deal, making a record for her.
Okay.
And Michael Weeman and I talked about it. So that's the big thing. I said, let me stay involved in this because we're about to close it. And, we'll gracefully transition to a new manager and gracefully transition this. So, and at the time, she's doing the Zach Brown thing, and she's got another deal going with someone else to do a record for her. So she's got these two competing things. Gotcha. So Rusty goes to see her play downtown at Centennial, one of the acoustic things, one of those shows.
Was this the one that Zach opened? I mean, Zach was playing in the park?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she says, "Hey, I just signed a deal. I'm going to do a record." And Rusty's like standing up, like about to get called out. And she points to someone else and calls her name. And I get a call from Weeman going, "What is going on?" And I'm like, oh, my God.
Classic.
It is a classic. So I just had to say, look, you know what? We're love her. She's going in a different direction, I think, from everybody.
Yeah.
I think Zach Brown's involved, which everybody certainly understood that.
Right.
That was a good move. So I had come off of that, and then you and I were talking, and it was like, you're in the middle of this record.
Right.
And, we had our meetings and decided, hey, let's do it. I had a little bit of money, but, remember what was happening. Yeah, like a little bit. But remember what was happening. The economy was crashing.
Right.
Like everything was dying.
Because that was, okay, so 2007, I think we were in the middle of making this record with Unk.
Right.
Like we had already started, recording songs, and we won radio contest and got to go play Bonnaroo.
Oh, Bonnaroo.
So that was Bonnaroo was 2007. So we went there, crowd loved us, got like a standing ovation and an encore, which we weren't supposed to do, but played an encore. And then the band after us was Cage the Elephant. So they were playing right after us, and they were like, "Who are these guys playing encore?" Like, how are we going to follow that? But so we played Bonnaroo and ended up giving away a bunch of those demos. So we came back, and Unk was there with us, and Unk like disappeared and like was severely dehydrated or something, and almost died in the tent. And it was really hot.
So Unk.
Classic.
So Unk.
But yeah, so we got to play Bonnaroo, which was cool. But then, so that was 2007. 2008 is when the economy tanked. And so that was that next year, and we were trying to finish this record. We were running out of money. We were already out of money, and it was just like beg, borrow, and steal.
Yeah.
And Sonya was starting to take off, and Greg was playing with Sonya. And at that point, I think John was still in the picture, or maybe John
was about to have a kid.
John was about to have a kid. So John took a hiatus, and Greg pulled in Dave Anthony, who I think was at that time playing with Sonya.
Right.
Okay.
No, so actually, yeah. So Sonya ended up taking Dave. No. Dave went to do the movie thing in Philadelphia.
Right.
Right?
Right. And then Will moved
to Vegas.
And so we played a gig at Smith's in August, and I think this was the Fram Jam. Was the last.
Yep, that was the last one. Fram Jam was the last
Leslie
one.
Fram was doing a showcase, and I think was it part of Atlantis?
It was.
Okay,
it was
so
part of
Atlantis.
Yeah.
And no, this was before. So Fram Jam, I think, was in September. We played a gig in August at Smith's before Fram Jam because Brett ended up playing Fram Jam.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So we played this gig in August, and I remember at that gig, like knowing, like this is the last time that we're all going to be together. With Will, and Will left right after. Like we didn't know Will was leaving, but somehow I just knew it.
So when we were meeting, having dinner, talking about me managing the band, and you were saying, "Hey, by the way, the whole band's leaving, and we're going to have to get new people." Oh, that wasn't brought up. That was completely left out of that meeting. 100%.
I didn't know that at that time, Because John was just on, John was supposed to just be on temporary hiatus.
Right.
And so we brought in Dave to fill in. Greg was still there. And then when Will left, we ended up bringing in Brett Hartley, who, and Brett, honestly, like I had, from the time when I was first putting the band together, Brett was a guy that I was looking at, because I loved Brett's playing. I used to go see him play. I'd watch him play at Ten High. I'd go to CJ's Landing when he was playing with, totally blanking out the guy that he was playing with there, but
that guy, love that guy.
No, good dude.
I know.
Completely brain freezing right now.
Did you see him with Sugarland? That's all post Sugarland, right?
Yes,
that's all after Sugarland.
That was all post.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always loved Brett's playing, and but Greg brought in Will, and so I was like, all right, well, I guess this slot's full. So when Will left, Brett was the guy that it was like, well, this has got to be the guy,
right?
And actually I had interviewed some other guy. No, I guess I didn't. I'm thinking of before we brought in Will. I had talked to some other players.
Because when we brought in Brett, at this point we brought in Brett. Yeah, no,
right.
We brought in Brett, and we wanted two things from him. We wanted to play guitar, and we wanted him to help us finish the record.
Right, because Brett has a studio.
Right, Brett has a studio,
produced.
and where we had gotten to is we had finished recording all the tracks. So I come in, and instead of booking shows, I think we booked a Fram Jam thing, or maybe I brought you guys. I wasn't managing you at the Fram Jam.
I don't think so.
I don't think so yet.
So Leslie put us on the Fram Jam, and Clay Cook was on there because he had just released that single Loser Town, I think.
Yep. Oh my God. And best song ever, Sommer.
And Brett had played in Clay's band, so we were opening up.
Oh, I did not know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So Brett had played with Clay. So Clay was on that gig. I think not Shovels and Rope, but Whiskey Gentry. I feel like they were on that show maybe, and Have Gun Will Travel was on the show.
Yeah, Have Gun Will Travel. Yeah. We had, what's funny is there were 2 or 3 bands with Gun in the title. And at first we wanted all 3 bands, and I said, look, this turned into an NRA convention. We're going to have to pick one of these bands. So, yeah, that was just unfortunate with the name.
So that was so Fram Jam, I think John's wife Shannon was like about to have the baby any day.
Yep.
And so we had Dave Anthony like waiting in the wings to do that gig. And I think John played the gig, but Dave was there in case John had to run to the hospital.
Right.
And then I don't know if we played again after that, because then everything kind of fell apart, or it was just chaos, and then we were like, we got to finish this record.
we were hell-bent on finishing the record.
Right.
So with that in comes, so we go, and Unc gets, for the most part, finishes all the tracks.
Right.
So we've got all the tracks. Will's gone now.
We didn't have vocals. We
didn't have vocals. So you and I took off to Sean McPherson's studio.
Right.
And recorded vocals for like 4 or 5 songs.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember which songs.
I remember some of them. Only Gets Better From Here, I think.
I do remember tracking that.
Look at you.
Right.
We did that one.
Feet on the Ground.
Feet on the Ground.
Right. Okay.
And I think one more. So we did those.
Soon Forget Me, maybe? No, because we did that with Brett.
Yeah, you did that with Brett. And then we found one song. What song was it that was out of your key? It was completely done, remember?
Yeah.
Completely done, and you couldn't sing it.
It was Move On.
Move On.
So Move On, we had tracked in E, I guess, man. I don't know. I don't remember I don't know what key we played in now. I'd have to think about it.
Well, the last show that I went to, same thing. You didn't know what key was in. The band did.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
But you were totally capoed somewhere else, and the band's all looking at you.
I did that. We played, opened up for Dierks Bentley. He did a Miles and Music charity, like motorcycle ride. And we would ride. We didn't ride, but it started somewhere in Roswell or something, and then wound up at Lake Lanier. And so it was like Dierks Bentley and Driving and Crying, and I think Corey Smith was on there, and Josh Thompson, and totally blanking out again. Comedian, you might be a redneck.
Oh, Foxworthy.
Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
Jeff Foxworthy was on it, and so we were like the very first band, and actually Andrew Nelson's band before Great Peacock, who I'm going to see tonight at the Earl.
Ooh,
which is fantastic. They're an amazing band. The previous band that he and Blunt had was playing like the beginning of the motorcycle ride. And I think it was Shotgun Lover at that time. Yeah. So they played the motorcycles, listened to them, and then came and rode up here. So we're in the middle of a set, and I started off You Were There, which a capo up on the 9th fret, and I got the capo wrong. Oh. And we started it off, and we're in front of, big stage, right on the water, Lake Lanier. People are in the water in front of us, and I have to stop the whole thing. And it was really embarrassing. So afterward, I was backstage, and the backstage was a houseboat pulled up to the side of the stage, floating on the water.
Oh, wow.
So, like, the stage was literally on the water's edge. So I'm up on the top of the houseboat, and Dirks' drummer was sitting up there, just kicked back, reading a newspaper. And, he's friendly. He was like, hey, good set. I was like, yeah, I kind of screwed up that one song. He was like, yeah, I heard.
Yeah. It's hard to miss. Hard to miss, TJ. Hard to miss whatever your name is, but I'll never forget that. Right. I'll always associate that moment with your band. Right. You're welcome.
But he was actually really nice. He was like, man, I did a similar thing. We were playing Letterman, and we had changed an arrangement. I forgot, and was supposed to end and kept going. But.
Oh man, and you're on an island when that happens too,
right,
with the whole band looking at you.
Right.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
I didn't get fired, so.
All right, so we get to the point, and that's where Brett comes in the picture. We meet with Brett at Smithsville Bar. Remember that? And we sit down and we say, can you help us mix the record?
Right.
We don't have any money, but we'd like you to play a bunch of gigs for free with us. As a bonus, you can play for free with us. That's going to be great. So we pull it in. And so basically, you and I, we beg, borrow, and steal to get the record done.
Right.
I had a little bit of I was about $1,000 or $1,400 short of pressing the record and mastering and all that. So we mastered it with Alex.
Yep, Alex Lowe,
Red Tuxedo. We mastered Alex Lowe, and you added. Let's back up. You did the worst thing songwriter musician can do. You did the worst thing you can do while making a record when you're finished with the record, is you wrote 2 more songs that had to be on the record.
Right.
Remember that? It was like, we're all done. Yeah. Well, why don't you listen to these 2? And it was like,
what was it? It was Yours and Mine.
Yours and Mine. And
what was it? Feet on the Ground? No. You're talking about. No, I mean,
it's the jam. Going down to Charleston.
Yeah, I Tried Hard.
Yeah, I Tried Hard.
We had already been playing that one.
But so
maybe Yours and Mine I had just written.
Yours and Mine you just written, and then I heard that song the first time live and was like, it's got to go on the record. So Brett,
or was it?
No, it was that one.
It was that one.
Okay. Yeah, and Brett recorded both those in his basement, and you guys went and hammered those out.
Right.
So then
we recorded a couple others too.
Did you?
With it, yeah. Soon Forget Me we did with Brett. We also recorded but never ended up releasing Keep the Motor Running.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see. I haven't heard that either.
You've heard it live.
Yeah, I've heard it live.
Maybe.
I just haven't heard the recording. No, I've heard it live. So, all right. So then we go, and Leslie Fram and Lanny West. Lanny jumps in, and he covers the last bit we needed to press the record.
Right.
And we had the graphic artist. I don't know if you remember, but he didn't deliver. He didn't deliver at all. Like it was like last second to press the record, and finally the graphic artist delivered, and that was you, right?
That was me, yeah.
I think you were up all night.
I'm not a graphic designer.
You were up all night figuring out. That's how we were bootstrapping this baby.
That's classic TJ.
Yeah, right?
So it'd say, no, I can do it.
I got it.
Yeah.
And you didn't say it the day before. You said it weeks before, and then you started working on it the night before. You're like, I'm going to knock this out in no time.
I don't remember that, but I believe it.
Pretty sure that's how it went.
I'm pretty sure I believe it. It's
so we
plausible.
Did it. We nail it. We get it mastered. We get it back, and everything's great. The record is fantastic, and I
feel like there was probably a typo or something in there that was my fault.
I didn't see it.
I don't know.
I didn't see it. So we get to the point where the record's done, and now it's time to get rich and make a lot of money. So I start as your manager booking your tour.
and this was probably January of 2009.
Yeah, we're in early 2009. Still cold out.
Right.
And
because we finally got the record done. I think we got it back in January.
We got the record done, did a really awesome show at Hard Rock.
Well, no, even before then though, because that was like the Hard Rock was the new band.
Yeah, that Hard Rock's the new band. So that even Brett's not even in that band now, right?
No, it was an entirely new band.
It's an entirely new band.
So basically, like we finished the record. It was like, okay, great. Now, like we've been working on this for the last 2.5 years.
Basically, everybody involved with the record did not want to play with you anymore.
Well, they were getting paid to play with other people.
Oh, that's it.
And I couldn't pay. So the whole band basically was out with Sonya. And she had a budget. I mean, I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't. Right.
You know, they're getting to play with Sonya. They're touring. You know,
they're opening for Willie.
Paid. They're opening for Willie. They're
opening for
out
Zach.
With Zach.
Yeah.
You know, she's got a tour bus, and you know, I couldn't afford to pay them, and they couldn't afford to go out for free, which was always the case with the band because the other guys in the band were all professional musicians. So. You know, they pay their rent, pay their mortgage with what they're making Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And as an original band, we're not making any money starting out. So we couldn't really couldn't book shows.
And well, I think original bands anywhere, not just Atlanta.
Right.
I give it a bad rap, but Atlanta's the only market I've ever really played in. Yeah. Original bands are tough. You got to be able to not make the money.
For a while, for a long time.
Yeah, for a while.
Which is why, so I totally skimmed over, forgot to mention Jeremy Moyers. So Jeremy was in the band. Jeremy Moyers, pedal steel player and phenomenal guitar player. He was in Lone Star for 8 years. Third generation West Texas pedal steel player. Just a phenomenal guitar and pedal steel player. He played on the EP with Dan that we did, and then he was in the band for a minute because he was like, "Man, I dig this. I want to play with you guys." And I wasn't sold on having a pedal steel player in the band. And John, you know, came in and was like, "Are you an idiot?
Yeah.
Like a guy like this wants to play with you? Like, yeah, you're going to say yes." And Dan Hannon, the same thing. It's like, "Yeah, I guess you guys are right." So Jeremy was in the band for a minute, and it was amazing because he played slide, he played pedal steel, played, you know, second or I guess third guitar, and he could rip it up just every bit as much as Will could. But then after a few gigs, he noticed, like, "Man, you guys aren't making any money. Like, you guys don't have a Prevost. You don't have a tour bus."
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, no, we don't."
No.
He's like, "Huh, rock and roll bands don't seem to be making money."
Yeah.
Because he had come off, you know, a country tour for the last 8 years. So it was like, "I'm going to go start my company. I'll see you guys later."
Oh, so let's tie up what we talked about in the beginning. Okay, so now our first real band dilemma, our first real conflict is
we got the record done.
No, record's done. We got Lanny's in and Leslie's in, and they're ready Lanny's going to put in the last bit of money to help us put it out. And I sit down with them, and they say, "You know what, though? I think we need to put 21 in Minnesota on the record."
That's right.
Huh? And TJ said, "No, that record's been made."
Did I say that?
You did. You said, no, that record's been made. It's called the EP. And we're like, "Yeah, well, we're not going to market 2 records to try to get a record deal or try to get this record picked up. Remember, we're not going to give them 2 CDs to listen to. We got one shot. We're giving 1 CD. Right. You got to put these songs on it." And you acquiesced, like a good sport.
Right.
We remastered everything together, and then put the record out, and it's got those 2 songs on it, and they were right.
Right. Well, but then, so that's funny because I don't remember fighting that, but I can believe it, but I think they were probably right. But when I went to New York, so Leslie brought me up to New York that summer. So end of June, you and me and Lanny went up to New York and was on Anything.
Rich Russo.
With Rich Russo.
Yeah.
And Rich Russo gave me shit about putting those 2 songs on the record.
Did he?
He did.
What did he say?
He was like, "You already put those songs out. Why would you just tack those on to the end of the record?" I was like, I couldn't say anything.
Had a coupon at the pressing plant. Right. Buy a record, get 2 more songs, no cost.
Right.
That's right. Okay, so
that's funny because I had completely forgot. I thought that was I thought that was my call to put those on. I had forgotten that it came from someone else.
Yeah. So, all right. So at this point, the economy's crashed. I've just lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
We head to New York City.
This was June of 2009.
Yep, June of 2009. So I am now unemployed manager with no money of a band that only needs one thing, and that is enough money to pay a band to go tour. And we go up to New York with Leslie and Lanny, do an acoustic showcase.
Yep.
Get some great response.
Yep, because I played with Kevin Kinney up there.
Yeah.
And showcased for Daniel Glass Notes Records.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, love it. Want to see the rest of the band. And we panicked. Because we couldn't get there. We couldn't show the rest of the band.
We couldn't show them.
So we got to back up, though, because at this point, we didn't have the original band. We remember in April. So January, we finished the record. We're like, okay, now we got to get out on tour. And all the other guys were like, I can't really tour. Like, I'm working. And so we couldn't do it. So I don't know if it was you or me or the two of us put our heads together and came up with the plan. Okay, well, if we can't tour with these, like if we can't get these guys, we can get, some young guys, because we couldn't afford to pay the original band. They couldn't go out and not make money. Yeah. But in order to get the record out, it was going to take going on the road, not making money.
And Steve, what's his name, with Mark McHugh.
Oh, yeah, Steve.
Oh, I see his face. We met with him. He absolutely loved the record.
Yeah.
What was the name of the record label? Do you remember? Brash. Okay, yeah. Brash Music. Steve Jones, yes. Steve Jones of Brash says, oh, we love it, man. We'd love to sign it. What's your tour schedule look like? And we're like, what do you mean? Sign the record, give us a bunch of money. And we go, no, that's not how we do it. See, what we do is we sign the record, then you guys go push the hell out of it by touring.
Right.
And so we went and got a band, and we did our best effort to get started, right? So,
so the idea was, okay, we can get some young guys. They're not going to be the same, not going to be the old guys, who was a fantastic band.
Right, but they'll play for free.
But they can afford to go out on the road and not make money every night. Right. And we'll put it on the road for a year, and season the band. By that time, like the important thing is the songs.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the same band necessarily, but we'll put this band on the road. It'll end up being a great band. Yeah. That was kind of the idea. And so we had to do the CD release, and we did the CD release with the young guys, which was Ryan Stevens. So Ryan Stevens was a guitar player that I had met. He was playing with Rick Brantley.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I didn't realize that.
He had played with Rick Brantley, and I had met him at a show. I knew he liked Will McNeil, really liked his playing, dug what we were doing. And so I contacted him, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to play. So he came in, and then he brought in the rest of the band. He was like, I got this bass player. He's going to be great, buddy of mine. So he brought in Jamie.
What was Jamie's last name?
I'm completely. Why can I not remember?
I know, right?
Anything?
It just leaves.
Jamie.
I don't think I ever knew his last name. I think I just knew him as bass player guy.
Okay.
No, Jamie, great guy, and
Jeff Beach. On drums, which Jeff and I had been in a band. We'd played in a band before, and so Jeff shows up at rehearsal. Because it was like, all right, we'll call a rehearsal. Ryan, you bring the guys that. Yeah. Because I don't know why I guess at that point, like maybe I had burned bridges everywhere. I don't know why I couldn't.
I think
come up
everyone was working.
I think
everyone was working, had good paying gigs, or had a baby at home. Yeah, everyone's working. That's the problem.
Okay. So Ryan put together a band. He basically MD'd putting together a band. Yeah. And showed up, and it was a drummer that I had played in a band with before, Jeff Beach, who was a great drummer, sweetheart of a guy.
Yeah, and, really great guy.
And we had played in a band before when I first got to Atlanta, and I'd gotten fired from that band. And so it was fun to get to play with him again.
Did Black Crowes ever take your girlfriend home with them?
No.
Then you haven't really ever been fired from a band. No, being fired is the best thing that can happen to you when compared to that. All right, so we bring the band in.
And we do the CD release with them at Hard Rock, and there was a big crowd.
Remember how we paid Ryan?
No.
We gave him a bunch of CDs, and he sold the crap out of them.
That's right. Because he put up money to finish pressing it.
Yeah.
Or
no, he put up money.
T-shirts or something.
Basically, I think everybody at the CD release party, Ryan brought in.
Well, he did, but no, I think he put up money.
Did he? To
finish pressing the CDs.
Okay, so then we gave him some CDs to sell to make his money back, and he sold them. Yeah.
Right. So we did the CD release. Ton of people there. I didn't know any of them.
Yeah.
It was all those guys' friends.
Yeah.
And that was really weird. And I think John was maybe in the back of the room for a minute, and kind of was there and took off.
Yeah.
And so that was weird. Like having this record that we had worked on for 2.5 years together, like just blood, sweat, and tears. And then when we finally did the CD release, none of those guys that made the record were there for it. So, and in hindsight, I wish we had done that differently. But there's a lot of stuff that I could and should have done differently.
I think we were just battling so hard to try to make something happen, right?
Yeah. Just desperate to
whatever happened at the time. You and I, we were battling every single day to try to make something happen, and we were going to bat with the people that were with us at the time. So
at that time you were out of work. Was that right?
Yeah, at that point, now I'm out of work.
Okay.
Now,
I don't think I knew that. And I was at that time. I had moved to Athens because I had met Mary, who's my wife now, and she was in grad school in Athens, and so I was kind of like splitting time back and forth. And I was working construction the summer of 2008, and then that completely dried up. And at that time, I was driving back from Athens.
One of these shows at Smith's where Mary's there, and Mary's beautiful. You've married way, way up.
Definitely, yeah.
And you had gone from the short beard to the really long beard. Right? Do you remember this story?
I do. Well, yeah. Well, maybe I don't remember this story. I remember the beard.
Okay, so you had the big long beard.
Right, and had long hair at that
time.
Had
long hair. Right? And this guy starts giving you crap. He starts giving you a little shit. And he's telling you, you could clean up and be a good-looking guy. Cut that hair, cut that beard off.
Who was it?
Just some kid. Just some guy. Some guys had a little too much to drink. He's a frat boy, probably young professional.
At that time, beards were not popular.
No. Beards were
because when I started growing the beard, it was an accident because we didn't have hot water. My roommate hadn't paid the water bill or something somehow, so I couldn't shave. So I didn't shave for like a week or two, and then so I started growing a beard, which I never could grow any kind of facial hair.
Right.
Until suddenly I'm 28 and starting to grow a beard, and women started commenting like, "Oh, you're growing a beard, huh?" I was like, "Am I?"
Yeah,
I like it.
It caused me to sing 21 wrong for years. I'd sing 21 and a beard is all it gets me. And then I'm reading the lyrics. I'm like, oh, damn, that's beer.
It's beer.
It's nothing to do with this beard at all. Not a thing. So he's telling you to clean up, basically.
Because I used to people used to give me crap for the beard.
You could clean up.
It wasn't cool at that time.
Cut the beard off, at least trim it. Cut the beard off, cut the hair. You'd be a good-looking guy. And you go, see that girl over there, the tall one? Looks like a supermodel? Yeah. She's the one that asked me to grow the beard. And he goes, he looks at her, and he looks at you, and he looks at her, and he looks at you, and he goes, you've done the right thing. Done the right thing. And then he just leaves. It's like, yeah, he's done the right thing. Well, he's doing all right.
I remember, so at that time, beards weren't popular, and I had long hair at the time, and, I looked like, Chris Robinson, or, looked like a hippie, and I'm not a hippie, never was a hippie, but I looked like a hippie at that time. And I remember having the conversation with asking Jay.
Oh God.
Jay from Columbia in 99X.
Yeah, from Columbia 9X.
I can't remember anybody's name.
The guy that got the Zach Brown deal done when Zach wouldn't sign a record deal. I think he finally went. He worked for Rick Rubin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Rubin sent Jay. Oh, Jay worked with Leslie.
Right.
99X.
Why can I not remember? I'm sorry, Jay.
Yeah, Jay, we're
terribly embarrassed.
I'm gonna overdub his name in before I upload this video. Right.
Anyway, so I was asking Jay because Jay was A&R for Sony Columbia, and I was like, is it like, do I need to clean? Like, is this a bad idea? Like, are people not going to take me seriously in a rock and roll band because I have long hair, or in an Americana band because I have a beard and long hair.
What did he say?
He was like, no, just be yourself. But looking back on it now, when the last 10 years has been beardy, long-haired Americana bands, at that time, I was like, do I need to clean up? Do I need to cut my hair? Do I need to cut my beard off?
You're like the grandfather of the bearded Americana movement. Like you were bearded Americana before bearded Americana was cool.
Maybe, I don't know.
But never a hipster. I can definitely say never a hipster.
Well, and not a hippie.
Or a hippie.
But so that was the time. Anyway, that spring, I was broke and destitute too. So I was splitting time between Atlanta and Athens, crashing on couches. I was literally at one point I was living in a friend's rehearsal space without them knowing about it, and I kept a sleeping bag in my car, and I was essentially homeless for at least a month.
This is at the end. This is about the time we're going to New York.
January.
That January.
This was January when we finally finished the record.
Yeah,
and I was basically living out of my car or crashing in people's rehearsal spaces. I was sleeping in our rehearsal space. It was Manchester Orchestra space. And I'd come in there at night, and once or twice I'd run into somebody else who was sleeping there, like some other band. And we were like, oh.
That horrible, awful bathroom.
Yes.
Trying to get, oh man, that's living right there. That's rough.
So this was that time period, and Mary was in grad school. So she was a grad student, and I was a musician, and like we just had nothing.
Yeah.
Like no money. So that's kind of the setup of, so I'm broke, you're broke.
We head to New York. We pull it off somehow. We get there.
Right.
I remember at one point we have lunch, and I'm thinking, Lanny starts to ask me to pay for it, and I don't have any money.
Yeah.
And he just says, you know what? I'll just bill you for it. I'm like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you do that. You bill me for it. So we have a great trip.
Writing on the wall.
Yeah, right. We have this incredible trip. And then you remember what happens on the way when we get back?
Yeah.
With Lanny.
Well, so
in the limo, what happens in the limo on the way back? Newsflash comes on. Remember?
No.
Yeah, Newsflash comes on. Michael Jackson's dead.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's coming back from that New York trip. We're in the limo. Michael Jackson dies. There's our omen right there.
Right.
The king of pop is gone.
Right.
So no, we're coming back. We have this great trip.
Showcase for Daniel Glass.
Showcase Daniel Glass. It goes great.
Wanted to see the rest of the band.
Yeah, hitting the band. They want to see the rest of the band. We got some momentum. We think we were just on Rich Russo's show.
Played live on the radio.
Live.
New York.
Yep. I mean, Leslie Fram was the queen, the king of the Atlanta music scene.
And New York.
She's killing New York.
Of the last rock station. It was a WRXP. Right. And up there hanging out with Matt Penfield.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Matt. Oh, God, what a good guy, too.
Yeah.
All right. So Steve Craig was up there. He's here now.
Elliot Garston, I think, was up. No.
Yeah.
Was it Elliot?
I don't know.
No. Maybe he was. I'm trying to remember. Somebody else was up there that was from 99X.
So we come back here. We separate for a week. Lanny calls. He's like, we got to get the band up here.
Right.
We got to do this. You and I meet at my apartment. We're both broke, and we end it.
Well, it was a little bit different. I don't remember the exact timing, but so the setup was we came back, and basically like Daniel Glass loved it, wanted to see the band. They had set up like another showcase for us to come and play, like a music show that Rich Russo was putting on.
Yep.
And
that's right.
So Rich was going to, put us on this bill, which was a big deal. And I was getting married 2 weeks later. So this was end of June. I got married July 11th. And either between that time or I think it was right after we got married, I think right after the wedding, we got billed for the trip.
Right.
And it was like $1,300, which at that time to me might as well have been $1 million.
Yep.
Because it was such an insurmountable amount of money, like I was like I wasn't making any money. I was like living off of like $50.
You're at the bike shop, right?
No, I wasn't at the bike shop then. I think I was living off of sound gigs, going back like Atlanta sound gigs, but living in Athens. Couldn't find work in Athens because the economy tanked.
Yeah.
So, like there's a zillion college kids who, can work and need jobs. So I was I think I was doing sound gigs in Atlanta, either church on Sundays, and I think I was working like Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. And so I'd come to Atlanta, do a Friday night, like, show up at like 5 p.m. and get out at like 3 a.m. And then I'd go stay at Mary's parents' place or sister's place or something.
Right.
And then I'd do the same thing Saturday, get home at 3 a.m. and have to be at church at like 6 in the morning and do sound there. And then I'd drive back to Athens and, was living off of that, $200 or whatever I would make in those couple days for the rest of the week. So $1,300 was, it might as well have been $1 million.
Yeah, and same with me.
And it was just overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do.
I was losing every car, apartment.
Right.
I was bankrupting. I had health problems.
Yeah.
I was right at the very beginning of an awful Adderall, Ambien addiction. Like it was. And then, so we get all this, and Lanny, you and I decide, we meet. At some point after this, the writing's on the wall. We meet, and
we tried to find a way to
get there,
get the band up there. We knew we couldn't showcase the young guys because they were great, and I was grateful for them playing. Love those guys, but that band wasn't showcase ready. Like that band wasn't ready to showcase.
Right.
A year later, they might have been, but it wasn't ready to showcase for Daniel Glass, and so you had said, all right, well, we'll get the other guys up. And Will, at this point, was in Vegas.
But ready to go. I had talked to Will, remember? I had talked to Will. We had figured the prices out. We figured the money.
John couldn't do it for Sommer. Or John was booked, I think.
Yeah, I think he was booked.
Could do one date, but not another. And we were trying to work a route up there.
And
Dave was in Philly.
And so at the time, unbeknownst to you, I had enough money in my bank account to pull it off. And then the IRS froze my bank account. And I was like, man, every time I think there's a little tiny break. Yeah. And there was, interview after interview after interview, no jobs, no nothing.
Yeah.
Economy gone.
Yep.
So we meet at my house and we decide.
I think the only thing I could think to do, because the band already owed money to a friend of the band named Benny who had financed the record already.
Yeah.
Financed the first record. It helped us, put in money for the other record, and still owed him money for that for $1,300. It was like this 13 omen. So then I got another bill for $1,300, and I was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I just gotten married, and it was like, okay, like I've got to start bringing in some income. Like I've got to start making money. And I also realized that I wasn't going to be able to go on the road and stay gone on the road and stay married.
Yeah.
Because I'd seen my brother go through that with Manchester, where he was on the road 250 days a year and was married, and it was just really hard to be away. And that's why he eventually quit the band, came off the road. So I had seen that the previous year.
Right.
And he was in a successful band, and they were like touring the world, and had a label support and
on Letterman
playing Wembley Arena, like they were doing real stuff, and so I wasn't anywhere near that level. We weren't, and was looking at slogging it out on the road in the van, and just got married. The band was in debt, and I was just completely overwhelmed. Didn't know how to deal with it, and so the only thing I could think to do was, well, I guess I just shut down the band. Like the band owes this money, and I was terrified of.
I think it was
of me, of somebody coming after me, and now I'm married, and so it's coming after my wife and bringing that into the new marriage. So I said, well, I guess if we just shut down the band, then it's gone.
Which years go by. Well, no. So, all right. So you shut the band down. We meet at we have an official meeting at my apartment. We sit and we talk about it, and we make the determination. That's it.
Right.
It's done.
And I remember emailing Rich or something,
and I had to call Lanny, who was excited about his expectations. I'm about to call him, tell him who's coming to do the showcase.
Well, because the quandary was, okay, we weren't, I as naive and foolish as I was, I didn't know that all the whining and dining and like the whole trip, I was getting billed for it.
Right. Which is the fault of your manager.
So, you know, I assumed, okay, we're getting in this relationship. Like once we start making money, then we can pay this stuff back. But we got to bill like as soon as we got back. And I didn't know how to deal with it.
Right.
And so we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we get the band up to New York for the showcase? And it was going to cost money, and we didn't have money. And, you know, the band might have had like $250 or something. And it was like, okay, this is going to take all the money that we have and more and go more into debt to do this thing when we already have this other debt. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And so we just shut it down.
Yeah. So I had to call Lanny, who's expecting me to tell him who's coming, when we're coming, and what we're doing. And instead I say the band's, it's gone. There's no band. There's yeah. And that was a very tough phone call with Lanny.
I'll bet.
Handled it as he would always handle it, as with great compassion. But you could tell. I mean, it's disappointing.
Right.
It's a great record. It's a great band. It was a great thing. And that for me was my litmus test at that point was, if you can't take a band like this, even though it was at the point, and make it successful, then, you know, being a manager without any capital, without any funding, without any money.
Right.
I think if I were to go back, I would have gotten that deal done, and I would have gone and found a money player.
Right.
Somehow to put the money into finishing the record and getting us on the road and sold it like that.
Right.
But hindsight being 2020, you know, I think you just think, let's put blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Right.
And that it just wasn't enough. If we were 2 years earlier,
right,
we would have had the money to go on the road and do all that.
Well, and there's there's a ton of things that I should have done differently long before then. You know, if I should have figured out a way to get a van, you know, and figured out a way to go on the road, or do what Sonya did and start off solo,
yeah,
you know, and build a following that way. But at the time, I didn't want to be a solo artist. I wanted to be in a band.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to have a band there. And that was the reason why when we shut it down that I didn't go on and, you know, just do it solo, because I just couldn't stomach not having those guys behind me and trying to do it, you know, start over again as a solo artist. And so I didn't play for 6 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
At least 6
so
years.
we'll get to that. Let's get to that because I came after you.
Oh.
But so had the talk with Lanny, and then had some real serious health problems.
Yeah.
And Lanny
which I didn't know at the time.
Yeah. So Lanny had hit me a little while later with I need to get this bill paid, and I said, look, here are my health problems. As soon as I get better, as soon as I can get back to work.
Yeah.
And basically, I get a very upset Terry Lanny on the phone that says, I'm tearing it up right now. Forget about it. Again, just a great guy.
Yes.
And he just wiped it out.
Right. Which was amazing. And I didn't.
Which was amazing. Yeah.
I didn't know about that, and I didn't know. You know, I really had kind of dumped it off on you, like, hey, I don't know how to deal with this. You as my manager, I need you to deal with this.
So
which wasn't fair.
But yeah, and I should have been more on the ball on knowing where we were headed with all this, which I wasn't at that point. It was, overwhelming being still Leslie Fram and Lanny West.
Right.
It was still overwhelming to be even in the room with those guys.
Right.
And all of that. So, all right. So it brings me to the end of that experience, and my band management career ends at that point. I'm like, I don't want to do it. Friend Jonathan Ripley brought a saying that he used to tell me all the time. He would say, Pridgen, I figured out how to retire from the music business with $1 million. You start with $2 million and quit after you lose that first $1 million. Uh-huh. And I was like, it's about darn true, unless you do something like you can take something like what Zach had, which was, dude was selling more records out of his car on tour than most people were selling in record stores, and was in the driver's seat to any record deal he got.
Right.
there's very few Zach Browns in the world that can pull that off.
Right.
That has the business acumen, the patience, and the talent, and the songs, and the band, and all of that, just all at one time.
Right.
But yeah, I think hindsight being that. All right, so I leave. I have a ton of health problems. I end up having a massive heart attack, and standing on a road in Boston, and having the heart attack, and thinking, I never finished a CD. Like, I'm gonna leave this world. I never finished a CD
Of your own?
of my own. Yeah, like I finished CDs for everybody else, but I had never done one on my own. And then think about the kids, and you think about all this stuff. But that was one very prominent thought I had. So after that heart attack happens, I call my buddy Greg Lee. I'm on the mend. Like, we got to do a CD. And Greg Lee goes all in. So do a CD and put the CD out. I start playing shows, and I start calling TJ. Said, hey, man, let's do it.
That's right.
Hey, man, let's play. And you kept saying, I don't know if I'm ready yet.
Yeah. No, I'm not playing.
6 months later, hey, I'm playing a show at Smith's. You want to open? No.
Right.
Hey, I'm doing a show at Hard Rock. Want to open? No. And finally, Greg Shapiro's father passes away.
Right.
And we're all at his wedding, Beggars Guild, everybody in one room.
Right.
And we all make a promise, do a gig again. At some point, I'm going to get you guys back.
You made that promise. Nobody else was on board.
No, everybody was on board.
No.
Is that just my wishful thinking? Is that just me?
Yeah. Yeah. You were hopped up about it.
I was all in a funeral fog.
And I was open to it, and the rest of the guys were like, nah.
But, and at this
Eventually
point,
it happened.
But, yeah, and Sommer's singing with me at this point. So you got to watch Sommer grow up from a little toddler into singing with her dad. And we finally do a show together at Smith's. Was that the CD release party that we did?
I think it was.
Was
this the one where Steve Cunningham played with me?
Yeah. No. That was just you and me.
That was just a show.
That was a duo. Right. Yeah, okay. we played together before that. So we put a show together. Sean McPherson was the driving force too. Sean's would call me every 6 months. Let's get Beggars Guild. So we got it. We did a show together. Now you guys are playing again, and you're writing songs again.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We're writing some. We're playing every now and then. Yeah. So we did a it was supposed to be a one-off reunion gig.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I think. This is before we had moved back to Atlanta, Mary and I. So we've been back in Atlanta 2 years. So before then, it was my birthday in March. I said, hey, how about for old time's sakes, you guys want to do a gig together? And we put it together, and I can't remember if Jeremy was on that one too. And Dee Dee Westbrook sang with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Jeff was on it because I still couldn't get John to play.
Right.
John, he was busy and he just didn't want to do it. So we did like a one-off reunion gig, and immediately, Jeremy, that's what happened. Jeremy immediately booked us for like a barbecue.
Yeah, the barbecue thing. Right.
He was like, "Yeah, I already got us another gig." I was like, well, this was supposed to be just a one-off, like never to happen again.
Yep.
And so then the next month we played a gig, and then Bevan Patrick called us and put us on last minute the Atlanta Barbecue Festival, like headlining.
Yeah.
Which we shouldn't have been headlining, but so we got to play up there at Perimeter Mall, and like people kept calling us to do gigs, and people were like old fans were showing up at the shows that I'd never met, and people like knew the songs and would come up to me afterward and tell me like, man, that record got me through some hard times, and I've been waiting to see you guys play. And somebody came up to me and said, man, I found your record and I've worn it out. Like, I love the record, love the songs. I never thought I'd get to see you guys play. They'd never seen us play.
Yeah.
And showed up at one of these gigs. And he was like, I'm so glad I finally got to see you guys live, which is just baffling to me. Just amazing.
Well, it's you guys are a great band. I did something in January I've never done before, as I broke up with a girl. Usually I'm on the receiving end of that bad news, but I had to go deliver it. And before we were leaving, it was our last, all right, well, it's been great. And I'm like, well, you introduced me to some great great people. I've made some lifelong friends, you know, and we're going to be friends. And she goes, yeah. And you introduced me to a really great CD and a great band. And I had put a CD out. I have a band. And I'm thinking, I'm like Rusty Cobb at the Sonya Lee moment. I'm ready. I'm standing up. And she goes, yeah, man, I'll play that Beggars Guild record forever. I think that's the last words we said to each other. Yeah. I was like, yeah, well, me too. So, I'll tell you a funny story. That record comes out, and there's a song on it I absolutely love.
Yeah.
All of them, but one in particular, Yours and Mine, I love. And then, so I am cranking Yours and Mine. It's on the radio, and I'm cranking it up. I'm listening to the whole CD. It comes to Yours and Mine. And who calls but TJ Edmond?
Really?
So I'm trying to turn the radio off and answer the phone. It's getting like 2 rings, and I can't get the radio. And I answer it, and Yours and Mine is playing, and I finally get it turned down. And there's a long pause, and TJ Edmond goes, what are you listening to? Like, nothing. Well, listen to anything. So, yeah, not one to let anyone off the hook. So I respect that. You got to respect that. So what have we learned? What have we learned through all of this?
Learned I've made a lot of the wrong choices along the way, and you know, could have done things a lot better, but at the same time, you know, can't live in the past, and you know, like I'm grateful for the whole ride. You know, I'm like it, and I'm grateful for you coming in and you know getting behind the band, because like that record wouldn't have gotten finished if you hadn't come in, and you know, because we were burned out, and you know, had no momentum,
right?
And you came in and like, yeah, we can get this done, and you made it happen, and you got it done, you know, and I'm grateful for you know, Lanny and Leslie coming in, and you know, I you know, hate that I shut it down the way I did. You know, in hindsight, I was like, oh, that was really dumb. Like, there was a way out of that, you know, but at the time I couldn't see a way out of it.
It was everywhere you looked during that time was bad news.
Yeah.
Every friend was out of work.
Yeah.
Like, it was overwhelmingly bad news everywhere.
Yeah.
Clubs weren't booking bands anymore. I mean, there was DJ. It was a tough time. So
Right.
Give yourself a little bit of a break on that.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what.
Leslie was real sweet. I mean, she sent me a letter afterward and said, hey, you know, what's going on? You know, I still believe in you as an artist and a writer, which was very sweet.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think I responded because I was overwhelmed and didn't know what to say or how to respond or anything.
You know, when you see people like Steve Craig or Leslie Fram stay in a business that is so hard and cutthroat.
Yeah.
And you see them stay forever and always have a job.
Yeah.
It really points to their character.
Right.
It points to their ability to recognize talent and know good music and good people. You know, Leslie's now CMT killing it.
Right.
And I went last year and spent a weekend with them.
Really?
So such great people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it doesn't surprise me she wrote you a letter. I wrote Lanny a letter when we did our gig together, because you and I had talked about how grateful we were to them and how we felt like we really let him down. But at the time, and I sent him a letter, and he sent a really nice reply. So I hope they know how grateful we are to them. And I appreciate your kind words. It was to be involved in that record. It's like, if I point back to the highlight of my music career, was that time with you guys, getting that record done, because I'm very proud of that record to have my name on it, and to know we did vocals with it, and we pushed, and we met with Brett, and we got all the people in. It was a Herculean effort to get that thing finished.
And it wouldn't have gotten finished without Brett.
Yeah, without Brett either. So Brett, huge kudos to Brett.
Yeah.
And we drug him into the AC/DC mix.
we drug him onto the sinking ship.
We did. He's like, what am I doing? AC/DC, what am I doing here? No, but that him and really coming in and just, again, knowing there's not a lot of money there, but he believed in it, wanted to finish it. So
and I love all of those guys. I mean, like John and Greg and Brett and Will and Ryan and Jamie and Jeff and even everybody that we've had fill in. I mean, we've had a lot of musicians fill in on different gigs over time.
And then go back to Nicole booking you guys.
Nicole,
you got Nicole in there.
Jervix, booking, taking a chance and booking me at 10 High. I mean, I was a sound guy, and she would put me on songwriter nights and.
No, good. Again, another one who recognizes talent the second she sees it. So awesome. Okay, so I wanna wrap this up. So Mike Rowe does Dirty Jobs.
Yeah,
and I would love to see him do a few other. He says, I think I've done all the dirty jobs that I could do.
Yeah,
there's some more dirty jobs. One, I'd like him to be a booking agent.
Yeah.
I'd like him to manage a band for a week. I'd like him to try to schedule a band practice with musicians and
book a gig
and all that dirty jobs. But you and I, we had one of the most. We'll wrap this on one of the most incredible, unfortunate experiences. I've ever had. So we booked a gig. Where was this? So I booked a gig, and I was gonna run sound.
Right.
And I brought everything but the cord bag.
so this was like a 3-day run, right?
Yeah.
And as usual, I couldn't get all of the players in the band available for all 3 dates, I think.
Yeah.
So like John and Brett had to leave, and maybe Jeff or Dave, and somehow like we had band members like switching out for like the last show, I think. And you had booked this gig in Warner Robins.
Eric Newcomer booked us this gig in Warner Robins.
Right, because we were going down to Florida and coming back.
Yeah.
And so we played. What was the place called? Yesterday's.
I've wiped it completely out.
I think it was Yesterday's, DAZE. Like Yesterday's.
That makes total sense.
And it was an enormous pool hall with a stage at one end.
Yep.
And somehow. So we show up there, and so we don't have a van, right? So we're in like small vehicles.
Yep.
Couldn't bring a PA. So you said, no problem, I'll meet you guys there with a PA.
Yeah.
So you drove down from Atlanta like the last night of this 3-day run.
Mm-hmm.
Glen comes through, brings a PA. We show up. We're unpacking to set up, and there's no cables.
None. No cables.
No cables.
We have one speaker cable and one mic cable. And that's all I had. That was it.
Yeah. And the speakers ran off XLR off mic cables.
Yeah.
So we had no cables.
We had no cables.
So where did you go? You like found somehow
I went to Walmart. I went to all the stores, and I found a mic cable.
All those stores that carry mic cables.
Yeah. Like we had like some toy cable XLR to 1/4 inch that we made work.
Right.
So basically we got one mic.
We had one microphone.
And one speaker.
One speaker on a stand.
No monitors, no nothing. And that was it.
And this was a big room.
Yeah. And TJ, it was one mic and one speaker too many. Based on how that show went. It was one too many. So, all right. So we show up. We get through that whole thing, and there's get a lot of
stress.
A little bit of, so we get a sound check. You guys play like you're freaking, I think it's, you play,
Play 21 or
no,
only gets better.
Only gets better. So and I'm proud. You're proud of that. Boom, they kick it, and she comes up, the owner, who's dressed in an old sweatshirt, like some ratty sweatpants, unlaced, dirty white high tops, no bra, maybe 40 going on 100. She comes up and she says, "What in the hell is this music?" And I said, what do you, it's the Beggars Guild. We sent you the CD, like you have our CD. Uh-huh. She goes, "Listen, y'all best be playing a whole bunch of cover country songs tonight. Don't be bringing none of that original crap up in here now." And I'm just like, we sent you our CD. Like we play all originals. She goes, "Oh, hell no. Y'all better know some country." Like, all right, well, we'll see what we can do.
I think we didn't know a lot of country. I think we had Mama Tried.
Eric Newcomer comes in and sits next to me. I'm like telling him what's happening. So you guys start playing, and every now and then she comes up, worst shit I've ever heard in my life.
Well, and also remember we showed up on a day that
yeah.
Like that day, the troops had like come. This was in Warner Robins, which is a big military town. Huge. So that day, that week or whatever, a whole bunch of troops had just come back from the Middle East, and that night, the whole town was throwing a huge barbecue for the returning troops. Not at our gig,
right? Not at our gig. And she said, "That's right," because when we started, she says to me, "Listen here. There's a big old ball going on down the road, so y'all best be bringing some people." And I'm like, we don't bring people. That's not our thing. We play music, but we usually don't bring anyone, and we didn't bring anyone.
And it was a big, Do you remember, were you with us when we played Fairhope, Alabama?
No.
We played like the school down there, University of South Alabama or Western Alabama. I don't know what school it was. They brought us down for like a student event.
Yeah.
And we played like this little chapel, and it just so happened to be at the exact day and time and afternoon that across town in Little Fairhope, Alabama, Greg Allman was playing a free concert in the park.
That's good. Those are good odds.
So nobody was out of the show.
Those are good odds. Oh, I've booked gigs that started and ended in exact synchronicity with the UGA football game in small rural Georgia.
Yeah.
And that never goes well either because they basically made us quit playing until the game was over, and then the bar closed, and then it's a fight to get paid. So, all right, so nobody's there, right? Y'all best be bringing people. I'm like, oh, God, this is not going well. And she'd keep coming over, and she'd go, this is horse shit. This is the horse shit. And so then we have this record we're proud of, and TJ Edmond says, hey, we just finished this record. We have a record here. So $10 at the stage. Just come see me after the set. And this old woman comes running across the floor to me, and I'm like, whoa, my God, what the hell? And she goes, he is stealing money from my bartender's mouths. That's money that should be going in their tip jar, not to buy you CDs for some horseshit music that I didn't want played here in the first place. And Eric Newcomer's at the table with me, and I'm just looking at Eric like, do you see? Do you see what's going on here?
Because Eric booked the gig.
He booked the gig. Yeah, he booked the gig. Didn't know about the ball.
No.
Didn't ask.
No. So we didn't get asked to play there again.
We didn't get, but she did walk over and throw the check at my feet. So we did get paid.
We got paid.
She wouldn't even hand it to me. She just threw it at my feet.
Yeah.
Do you rock and roll? And then she said something about playing too loud. I'm like, ma'am, we have one speaker, one mic. Like one thing we didn't do tonight. We didn't play too loud.
No.
So I think that may be the peak of the whole thing. We got that story out of all this. It was worth it to get that story.
Right.
And it was an easy loadout because I didn't have a whole lot of equipment, basically, of what I was supposed to.
There weren't a lot of cables to wrap.
I get home, and there's this beautiful in the floor, like these two beautiful bags packed full of all the stuff we need.
That you forgot.
I just threw half of it in. I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm tired. I'm achy. Yeah, that was fun. Classic stuff.
Do you know who Daniel Glass signed after that? Mumford & Sons.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that would have happened whether we played there or not.
I think so.
I think in the end.
No, I mean after the New York show.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think that would have happened.
That would have happened.
Yeah, right. That's a good band.
We weren't. Yeah.
No.
That was already on trajectory.
Yeah. That's good. Good stuff. Well, this is fun.
Man, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this was fun.
We need to do this again. We got way more stories. We still have
some more stories.
We just covered the history of the Beggars Guild. We haven't talked about any of this stuff. We haven't
Half of this is going to get left on the cutting room floor.
We haven't talked about shenanigans.
Right.
Other stuff. Well, cool. We'll call.
So are you playing soon? You got any gigs coming up?
Working on the record with Greg. If Yacht Rock would stop playing so much, we'd finish it. Yacht Rock Review. I mean, those guys are solid gold. I'll tell you what. I always tell Sommer I'm like the Forrest Gump of the Atlanta music scene.
Right.
I was always in the room when big stuff happened, drinking a Diet Dr. Pepper. But I didn't really do much. Like I hung posters for the first show, but forever I will always say I helped start Yacht Rock Review.
Right.
I was in the room when they decided on the songs, when they picked the shtick. I hung posters. I got to sing it the first 2 shows, and I'm holding on to it. Like I'm holding on to that.
How many years they've been doing it now?
God, they started 2008, 2007?
It must have been 2008 because I think they started after I was in
Athens.
Athens.
Started
because I wasn't at 10 High.
We did that first show at 10 High, and it was like you couldn't move in the place.
Right.
Still have the original Sailor's cap. I'm very proud of it.
That's probably quite valuable. Hot commodity now.
It's worth nothing, but but it is my memories. I have them. Yeah, no, yeah,
those guys are amazing.
Amazing.
Oh, fantastic players.
Great guys, great players. Close your eyes. You're listening to the record. You open your eyes, and you're having a party in your pupils.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yeah, good stuff. All right.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. We've released a lot. I feel good.
I feel like you're gonna have to cut a lot of that out.
Yeah. No, it's going straight up, as is.
Great.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yep.